What's going on, everybody? Merry Christmas, Happy New Year, all the great stuff. I hope you guys had a great holiday season. I'm excited. I'm excited to be into 2025. The new year, is always a exciting time after getting a little bit of a break, going over your business planning, kind of retargeting all your different goals you have, and then it's kind of nice to get back into the normal swing of things. And after eating a lot and hanging out, and you know what I mean. It's nice to be back going. So hope you guys all feel the same way and had a great time being able to be with family. I wanted to go over a little bit of a personal update, kind of what's been going on over here. There's been a lot of crazy stuff happening. So I'll give you insight into all of that. Obviously, go over some planning on what happened last year, what we kind of see happening within the markets going forward, and give you some ideas there. And then also, we have taxes coming up. That's going to come quicker than we expect. So I wanted to go over some tax ideas. Make sure that you guys understand, how the taxes work. I get a lot of questions around taxes, which it's confusing. If you're not doing it a lot, I'm not a CPA. It's even can be confusing for me when we get really, really deep into the weeds on some of this stuff. But just from a generic perspective, I wanted to make sure you guys understand how the tax system really does work. So starting with the personal stuff, I had a very crazy holiday season. So I'm sure a lot of you knew I got engaged in November of last year. And we were planning on getting married in, August or September of 2025 here. Well, my fiance, her mom, she had breast cancer about a year and a half ago, and it came back and it metastasized into her brain. So we wanted her mom to be able to be there. Of course, it was really, really important, especially for my fiance, now wife. Spoiler alert. But so we said, okay, we'll bump this up into March. Well, long story short, her health declined quicker than we were expecting, and she's on hospice at home now. So we decided, hey, we need to do something, quick here so that her mom can be there, because we really didn't know how much time she had left. So luckily, there was some family in town just because it was close to Christmas time. So we had a private, small ceremony at her mom's house, so she was able to, be there, watch it, and be involved. And it was really special. It was exciting, joyful, sad. I mean, it was a lot of emotions running through. It was tough, but again, it was nice that we were able to do that, have her mom be present with us. And that was really, really special. So we're going to do another wedding, what we were expecting to do later on. We don't know when. Obviously, it's kind of dependent on how things play out here in the short term. But so I am officially married, which is crazy. Again, it was all part of the plan for this year. It just happened a little quicker than expected, but that's okay. All things happen for a reason. And like, I did a podcast recently talking about that's why we plan. That's why we talk about things. I mean, life never goes exactly how we think it's going to go. When we're going through and working on your guys' financial plans and we're planning for 15 years in the future, I guarantee you that your life's not going to look exactly the same as my Monte Carlo simulation is showing, but that's okay. That's why we talk about it twice a year. That's why we get together. That's why we talk about new goals, new life events, and keep each other updated on this stuff. Because if we don't have something we're shooting for in the beginning, we never know if we're on track, and then it's harder to change course. So anyways, that's what's been going on personal. A crazy end of the year and beginning of this year. Again, it was a whirlwind of just emotions and everything happening, but yeah, all ended up well. So into the market stuff. What happened in 2024? We had a fantastic market year. NASDAQ, no shocker, as we've been talking about the last few years, our tech heavy index here was leading the charge. Again, we're not invested directly in any of these indexes. This is just to give you a reflection of overall different asset classes and how they performed. NASDAQ up almost 25%, S&P 500, your 500 leading in our biggest companies and leading industries in the US economy, all the companies you guys have heard of, up 23%. The Dow was lagging a tiny bit compared to the other indexes at 13%. But remember, guys, we can't get greedy here. If we're disappointed in 13% annualized returns, we just need to remember that, the market, it does not go up in a linear fashion. We're going to have pullbacks, but it's nice to take advantage of some good years here. So Dow was up 13%. The Russell 2000 is our, the small cap index, all small companies that you and I have probably never even heard of, but that index was up 10%. So moving into 2025, the beginning of the year is always interesting because there's a lot of people that say, hey, 2025, Trump's coming into office. The Fed's not going to cut rates as much as we were thinking. He's going to raise tariffs. It's going to be terrible for the economy, and the market's going to crash. And then there's other people that say, hey, Trump's in office. pro-business. Rates are actually going to get cut just like we were expecting. Job market's doing great. We're going to have the best year that the equity market has ever seen, and everything in between. So I don't have a crystal ball. I don't know what's going to happen. There's always the potential for unknown unknowns. I mean, who knows? But that's why we don't invest for the next 6 month period. That's why we don't build your financial plan for 1 year out. I mean, we're looking at goals that are 10, 20, 30, 40 years away for some of you guys. And that's what we're investing for, is the long term. And in the short term, we're trying to be as tax efficient. And I read this in a book the other day. Is one of my favorite lines. I'm going to steal it. Is we do not want to give a tip to the IRS. We don't need them to flip the little computer over and push 25% tip going over that way. So if we can be tax efficient, long-term diversified, as you guys know, I preach this all the time. That's how we're going to be really successful. So nothing in terms of that is changing for 2025. One thing that I do think that we're going to see is a little bit of a sector rotation. I talked about this in the last market update that I did, but large cap US companies and large cap tech cannot lead the charge forever. I think that we're going to get to a point where people will start locking in some of those gains and moving over into other sectors. Mostly, we see a lot of potential in the small and mid cap space because, again, with rates dropping and debt being easier to come by and lever and utilize, that's exactly what small and mid cap size companies need, because they don't have the free cash flow to just have the disposable income to throw cash at projects and things like that. So they need to lever debt. And in this market environment that we're kind of moving into, it's really setting the stage for potentially a big run in the small and mid cap space. So we have good exposure there, and we expect those mutual funds to perform well heading into the future here. So again, nothing else major changes. If there was an unknown that popped up and we needed to make quick changes, of course, I would keep you guys all updated and let you know. But as for now, I really want to focus on the tax strategies as we round out the 2025 tax year. So changing course here, talking about taxes. One thing that's a kind of a common misconception is how the tax brackets actually work. And again, it's kind of confusing. So a lot of people would say, and I'm going to stick here in this married filing joint column. Again, the story is the same, whether you're single, filing separately, head of household, doesn't matter. But most people, clients here are married filing jointly. So we're just going to stick with this column. How it works and what a lot of people think is, okay, Hunter, I'm a W-2 employee. I made $250,000 this year. That puts me in a 24% tax bracket. I'm paying 24% on every dollar that I earn. And that is absolutely not how it works. So what happens here is let's say that you made your W-2, you made $250,000. You are allowed to take your above the line deductions, which we're going to talk about here in a second, what that even means. But everybody can take the above the line deductions, and then you can either take the standard deduction or the below the line deductions, whichever is greater. Again, we're going to cover that, but so let's say that you made $250,000 W-2. After investing in some IRAs, taking the standard deduction, all of that stuff, you're probably taxable income, maybe it's like 20. Let's just say it's at 220,000. So how it would work is the first $23,200 that you made is taxed at 10%. Then you take 23,201 minus 94,300. What is that? $71,000 just about. That $71,000 is taxed at 12%. So 71 plus 23 is what? Almost $100,000, just about $94,000. That 94,000, now that's all been taxed. So then we take 94 minus 201, the 107 about $1,000 is taxed at 22%. Then we take whatever's left over. So let's say your taxable income, I forget what I said, 220. You're only paying from 201 to 220, so $19,000 at the 24% rate. So again, you're not paying 24% on all of your dollars. It's incrementally stepped up into these marginal brackets, which is really, really important to remember, because when I'm talking to you guys about potentially doing Roth conversions and like some other more advanced planning strategies, and I tell you guys, hey, I want to look at your taxes because I don't want to jump you up into another tax bracket. What I'm saying is, if we do a Roth conversion and maybe your taxable income's $300,000, I don't want to pull more than $83,000 to do the Roth conversion because I don't want to jump any dollars up into a 32% bracket, if that makes sense. So again, this isn't something you guys need to memorize. The main point that I want you to understand is, as you go into tax season, how your taxes are kind of structured. You're not paying that 24% on every single dollar. Really, what you want to look at is what's called your effective tax rate, meaning what is the average amount of tax that I'm paying on every single dollar that I make. If you're in a 24% bracket at 22 or $220,000, let's say, of taxable income, your effective tax rate is probably more around 16%, if I were to guess without doing the actual math. That's the average amount of tax you're paying per dollar. So that's what we want to keep in mind. Now, I talked about the above the line and below the line deductions. This is another big misconception, because I hear a lot of people say, hey, Hunter, I can deduct my state and local taxes. I can deduct my home mortgage interest expense. That's a huge one. My charitable donations. A lot of people will say, I don't want to pay off my house. I get to deduct the interest. I mean, how often have you heard that? Well, what you don't realize is a lot of people don't actually get to deduct the interest. I'm going to show you why. So I mentioned everybody gets the above the line deduction if they qualify for it, right? So what does that mean? Self-employed health insurance. I'm self-employed. I own my own business. I get to deduct my health insurance premiums. Health savings accounts if you're contributing to HSAs. Retirement plan contributions by self-employed taxpayers. SEP IRAs, Simples, Keogh, and solo 401ks. For all you business owners out there that we're working together, we have set up solo 401ks for you. Now, we use the Roth option a lot because, again, you guys know I like the tax-free growth. But if you use the traditional solo 401k, that is an above the line deduction, as well as IRA contributions and a couple other things here. But again, there's a lot of stuff for self-employed. People accept the IRAs. But this is all above the line deductions, which everybody has access to if you qualify for these specific categories. Then we move over to the below the line deductions. And this is where people get really confused, because how it works is everybody has access to what's called the standard deduction. And in 2024, standard deduction was 14 for single, married filing separately, head of household, married filing joint, 29,200. So for just being married, if you're filing joint, the IRS is saying you get a $29,200 standard deduction. Okay. So what does that mean? We have the option. We can either itemize or take the standard deduction. But in order to itemize, that would mean that your below the line deductions need to be greater than $29,200. So your charitable donations, your mortgage interest, your state and local taxes, if you have medical expenses, all of this stuff needs to be more than $29,200. So let's say your mortgage interest was, I don't know, $3,000. And you gifted $10,000 and you had $13,000 in categories 8 and 9 here. You do not itemize at that point. We would take the standard deduction, because why would we want to lower our taxes by $13,000 when we can lower our taxes by $29,200? So again, that's where people get confused. You're going to get, in that situation I just said, for gifting $10,000 to the church, you get absolutely zero tax benefit for that. Now, does that mean you shouldn't be generous and donate your money? No, of course not. But just understand the reason behind why you're doing it is not, of course, and I know all of you guys, that's not the reason you do it in the beginning. It's not only a tax play, right? But realize that in order to have it benefit you from a tax perspective, we have to have these below the line categories be larger than your standard deduction, which that standard deduction normally goes up every year. It went up for 2025. I forget the number off the top of my head, but it's just an interesting conversation, because I cannot tell you how many people will say, Hunter, I shouldn't pay off my house because I get to deduct the mortgage interest. Well, 99% of the time you're not, because most of the time your mortgage interest is less than the standard deduction. So it's not helping you a single penny, from a tax perspective. So I just wanted to clarify this, because again, people kind of get mixed up with how the marginal tax brackets work and how your deductions actually work. Again, I'm not a CPA. I don't file taxes. When we get into the really advanced tax planning stuff, that's where I work with your guys' CPAs and just run ideas by them and make sure that they agree. And we work together to do some of these things. But I wanted you to all understand, at least from a high level, how this actually works, so that when you're either talking to your CPAs or filing this on your own this year, you have a really good idea of what you're paying and why you're paying it. So, and as you guys know, I'm a big Roth believer anyways. I want you guys to all retire, and every dime that you pull out from your accounts is 100% tax-free, and we're not tipping the IRS whatsoever. That's the best possible scenario. So hope that helps, guys. Again, myself and Christy, my assistant, are going to be reaching out here in the next month or so. I really want to get in front of everybody and do our semi-annual reviews end of February, and then into March and early April. Especially as you're getting ready to file your taxes, and make sure that we're maxing out our Roth IRAs if we need to do our backdoor Roths, getting all that stuff done, and just making sure that you're all squared away from a tax perspective as we finish out the 2024 tax season. So, of course, if you guys have questions before then, always call me if you need anything at all. But again, I'm excited for the new year, excited to get back together, see everybody, and hope that you guys are all enjoying the beginning of January here. So take care, guys, and I will talk to everybody soon. Thanks. Bye.